Hey guys, this is I'm going to make a quick video on tackling your new wiring project, or maybe if you're rewiring the car for winter. I've had a couple messages from guys asking some questions. They're building the cars now. We're going into build season, and people are asking questions about what's the best way to kind of go about wiring a car. Maybe it's a new installation and they're intimidated by it, which is actually really common, and that's where a lot of people contact me from. But anyway, I was going to show you kind of what I go through to make this a little easier. So right now, sitting out on the bench, I've got the majority of what is going to be going on in this car that I'm doing right now, and this is intimidating. Most guys, most hot rodders are afraid of wiring. They're afraid of electrical stuff. And when you look at all this, most of the time you're kind of scared of it. Some of us aren't, but this video, I guess, isn't for them. So there's a lot of stuff here, and there's a lot of different ways to go about this. I'm just going to show you kind of how I go about this. So the first thing, all of your sensors, when you're wiring a car, what I tell everybody, always just mount all your sensors first. Get all these little boxes. You're going to have a whole bunch of these little boxes here, like this, your pressure transducers. Mount everything where you want it. That'll alleviate a lot of the packaging that kind of intimidates people. Now this is going off of assuming that we're going to be wiring this car with nothing in the car. So we're going to do this from scratch. That's what this car is. So mount your sensors first, get rid of, a lot of this intimidation. Then come up with a plan on how you're going to mount your ECU. If you're using a relay board, this has got traction control. If you're using a bump box, where you're going to mount this relay. Come up with a plan for this. So before you're even looking at the car, you should have a good bit of time invested into how you're going to be laying everything out in the car. So don't open up, what a lot of guys do is they open up the main harness and they go, all right, man, here we go. I'm going to throw this in the car, and we're going to be close to being done. Wiring should not be a one-day project. You should not be finishing your installation in 4 hours. You're bound to have problems. If you spent 4 hours installing it, you're probably going to spend 12 hours diagnosing an issue. So take your time. The race is not in the garage when you wire the car. The race is at the racetrack, where you don't want to have problems. So before you even look at this main harness or look at any of your auxiliary harnesses or anything, mount your ECU, screw your sensors in where you want them, or mount them wherever you want them, whatever you're going to do with it. And then my suggestion, this is how I do it. I do all of my heavy power and ground stuff first. So that's stuff that you're not going to touch in the car. So get that kind of stuff out of the way. This is welding cable. This is 4 gauge. I use 4 gauge on a lot of stuff. Not all power wire is created equal. So this is good quality welding cable. This stuff I think is rated for 165 amps across 15 feet. Most race cars, especially the stuff that I deal with, doesn't have 165 amps ever. So with that thought process, I want to show you a couple things that I use that make life a little bit easier. The first one is these from Summit. Moroso makes them, a bunch of Jegs makes, a ton of companies make them. What they are they're battery bulkhead connectors. So if you race the car, you're going to wind up jacking the thing up a lot and getting up underneath of it. And what a lot of people do is they run all their battery cable up underneath the car, and it's prone for abuse from the elements. So on this car, I've got them mounted here. What my plan is here with this thing, don't mind this, this isn't all cleaned up. So don't mind the mess. But what my plan is here, and this is how I wire just about every single car. I use these on just about everything. And there's other companies that make nice billet versions for mounts and whatnot. They're nice, but you know, use them if you want them. This car, it just so happened that we had a good flat spot to mount these two, and it worked out well. So for the LS crowd, most of you guys don't know what a timing light is, but for everybody else, these are also a really good spot to hook up your timing light instead of having to drag the leads all the way to the trunk, or find a battery from the golf cart or something like that while you're at the racetrack. So I use these things. They're pretty cheap. I think the pair of them is like 15 or 16 bucks from Summit. And I like to run everything inside of the car. So it's a bulkhead, and the lighting sucks, but I guess you can kind of see them. There they are underneath the dash. And then, you got your battery back here. I haven't started on any of this yet. I figured I'd make a video before I did. And then I'll probably want to post up some pictures when I'm all done. But like, this car used to run as a carb nitrous deal, and he didn't want to wire this thing himself, and I really can't blame anybody because it usually takes forever, and it is it's a time-consuming process. So anyway, what I'm going to wind up doing is gutting everything out of this car as far as battery cable. The cable that's in here it looks nice. Well, I mean, it looks a little older, but it looks nice. And this is 2 gauge. This is actually audio cable. That's what a lot of cars wind up having in it. This 2 gauge is like running, 6 or 8 gauge welding cable. So don't cheap out on your power wire and your ground wire. And grounding is more important, in my opinion, than power. So I'll make another video about grounding and the proper ways to do it, but this was just trying to get everybody started and let them understand the process on how to go through this. So step 1, mount all your stuff. Step 2, run your power and ground up from the battery up into the engine. Like this car, everything's mounted, right? So we've got boost control solenoids mounted. We've got pressure transducers. The coils are already mounted. The injector's already in the rails. We've got intake air temp. Fuel pressure up here. Everything's mounted. We got oil temp up here. Everything's mounted, and the reason being is that the worst thing that you can do, and where the majority of people screw up, is they put the wiring harness in the car, and then they realize that, well, my remote mounted oil pressure transducer, the factory harness that came from Holley wasn't designed to put it over there. So you've got 2 options. You're either gonna, ghetto rig something to move this where you don't want it, or you're gonna cut into the harness. And when you cut into the harness, that's usually what leads to the majority of problems. So plug everything in, or mount everything so that you know where all your plugs have to go to. You want to figure this stuff out before you set the engine harness in the car. Granted, when I do a car, I wind up taking the engine harness in and out of the car a couple times, but I actually just use a piece of AN hose and use it for reference for lengths, and then write everything down, and then I wind up building harnesses. But for this application, mount everything first. Next, after you've ran your power wire and your ground wire, forward and back, and you've got a distribution post up underneath the firewall or whatever, do your chassis wiring. So this thing is going to have this relay board, and then we're going to do turn signals, headlights, tail lights, all that. We're going to use this switch panel, but lay this stuff out in the car, route it how you want it, and don't terminate it right away. The big thing that I see a lot of people do when they wire a car, that I wind up getting my hands on it to fix it, is they terminated stuff, and then they wound up, oh man, I have to move this or that, and they wind up screwing it up. So, if you're coming up over top of this core, over this fender well, over the wheel well, and you've got an extra 10 foot of wire sticking off the back of the, hanging off the back bumper, that's fine. Run everything, run it all to its, general destination, and then, mark it, label it. So instead of having, you think you're all done, you've got it all zip tied up, and then you go, oh man, I forgot this wire. And you wind up chafing it or dragging it along something metal, or you try to wedge it into some loom that you've already done. Run everything, take it all into account. Write down, I use blue painter's tape, and I'll write down on the blue painter's tape, this is for left turn signal or right turn signal, or and then when I'm about to put it all together, I'll use heat shrink labels. So the other thing that I see a bunch of is people drill big holes in the firewall to run their engine harness through. Then they don't use grommets. These things are a lifesaver. I use them pretty much everywhere. So, this car, the ECU is going up underneath the dash. That whole panel is going up underneath the dash. And that whole panel actually swings down. So it's going to come up here through the wiper cowl. We've got a grommet here. So, it's going to be all loomed, but if it moves around, it's all rubber. It's not getting cut. And then it's going to come through here, through the engine bay, and it's again, being protected. So these things shake, they vibrate. The thing that sucks the worst once you've already been up and running is trying to find a wiring problem. It really, it sucks. I mean, everybody's been there that's been racing for a while. So if you just take your time when you're laying this stuff out, you'll find that you'll save yourself a bunch of time in the long run. So, I want to keep it short and sweet. Just take your time with this stuff, lay it out, follow the directions, and don't be overwhelmed by this. You're gonna tackle each one of these things one at a time. You don't have to look at all this stuff on the bench. The way I like to do this is once I've done all the steps that we just talked about, then I'll build what I call sub harnesses, right? So like here's the injector harness. So I'll make this injector harness and I'll figure out where it's gonna land in the engine bay. Here's coil harnesses, right? So you're gonna figure out where these land in the engine bay. Route them how you want them. The main harness should be the last thing that goes in the car, in my opinion. If you need to change a connector, right? So like this has got a GM style map sensor plug on it, and we're going to a 7-bar on this thing. So the 7-bar sensor uses a plug like this. Do it outside of the car. It's easier. You won't scratch your paint. You won't drop something. You won't nick a wire. You won't, cut through something that you weren't supposed to. There's a lot of guys out there that wire cars for a living. I don't do this for a living. I do this on the side, and I try to help as much as I can. The biggest thing that I see is people they skipped over something. They pinned it wrong. Whatever it may be. When you start getting into these extra sensors, so like your dome pressure and your boost control solenoids, you should have a plan. Run that stuff. If you decide, are you going to terminate it at the ECU and then run it out underneath the hood and terminate it underneath the hood? Or are you going to terminate it first underneath the hood and then run it to the ECU? If you stick to your plan, 9 chances out of 10, you do not run into problems. But just don't get overwhelmed by it and take your time. If you guys got any questions, feel free to hit me up. Thanks.